And welcome to this podcast about the incredible true story of a young immigrant's journey to the American dream. Talk about survive to thrive. Nothing like a good book, and this is a great book, folks. Janos immigrated to America and became John. Hardworking immigrant, popular foreign student, Hollywood actor and producer, aviator, skier, businessman, and successful entrepreneur. Sounds good. Well, it does sound good. It is interesting, and it's all hard-earned. After the Russian occupation of Hungary after World War II, and how does one boy escape his war-riddled homeland? And, you know, our conscious at the moment where we're thinking war is going on, how does an immigrant learn to thrive in a new place? You know, the American dream, real. Well, as an Aussie, I can relate to some of this, you know, in trying to assimilate into America. John Czingula shares his incredible life story in his book, From Utopia to the American Dream. Yep, we all had the American dream. And from his childhood in Hungary to his escape to America, to building a long list of careers and successes in America. It's truly an inspirational tale of perseverance. And I'm actually honored to have you. John, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, you know, you reveal your family life in Debrecen in Hungary when the Russian army began to turn Hungary into a communist nation during and after World War II. But you didn't understand the full gravity, did you, of the situation? But your descriptions, you know, and through the book and experiences, they paint the horrifying full picture and give a unique perspective of what was happening through your young eyes at the time.
That's right.
Well, yeah. You had a wonderful childhood, yes?
Yes, yeah. My young childhood in Hungary before the war, it was just phenomenal. I had great friends and just a wonderful life. And then, of course, nearly 4 years of bombing didn't help much after the Second World War started. And then the Russians, of course, and the Americans and the rest of the good people of the world won the war, except maybe I shouldn't say good people about the Russians, but
well,
that's what happened
at the time. Yeah, you know, they changed.
And then all the warring nations agreed that 1947 everybody goes home and let the countries rebuild themselves. But of course, we all know that the Russians didn't go home. They occupied all the territories, or left, or stayed in all the countries that they came through to defeat Germany. Mm-hmm. And in 1919, there was a very small group of people who called themselves communists, and they started a small uprising and lasted a couple, 3 days. And those people have been, when they were put down, they all went to Russia. And of course, they came back in with the Russian army into Hungary. And the rest is history. There were about 8 or 9 parties that started up, and of course, within about a year and a half, 2 years, the Russians, the new Hungarian Communist Party, with the Russians' help, put down everybody. So essentially, the Communist Party stayed on as the governing party.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know, and you were there. I mean, I think your grandmother, she had 5 acres of land, didn't she, just outside the city of Debrecen, and your father was a gardening engineer, and you survived actually in a small bunker on this piece of land, your grandmother's land, where you lived in fear of the war zone that Hungary had become. This book, by the way, Brad Butler, author of A World Flight Over Russia and Without Redemption, he says this, John, From Utopia to the American Dream is a fascinating and inspirational autobiography by John Czingula. It's a tale that spans many different worlds and showcases triumphs and tribulations. Under the yoke of the Soviet Union, the Czingula family was lucky to survive intact and continue to struggle as the Soviets tightened their grip of every aspect of Hungarian society. It would have been horrible really, this is two books. From what I read, before and after your escape from Hungary, from Utopia to the American dream, it's really a story of hope, John. A book which demonstrates how dreams, determination, and imagination, they are the magic elixirs of life. How close did it come, John, really?
Well, I tell you, it was a horrible time after the war, especially in the early days of after the war. I graduated from Bookkeeper Technical High School. Of course, all boys would want to be mechanical engineers, and the only kids that could get into a mechanical engineering high school is if their parents were party members.
Oh,
everybody else got in where they could, and so that was all reserved for the children of the political party members, which is the Communist Party.
right.
And I couldn't get in. And after graduating from high school, we had to serve a year of experimental job in our field of learning of 4 years in high school. And of course, I got the worst of it. They put me in a small village and I was in an office where we were supposed to collect and keep administration over farmers to provide all the corn and whatever they were growing and animals into the government. It was a collection agency, basically.
Right. Well, that was early days and all the hell, but guess what? In 1957, you were able to immigrate to America. And this is where it begins. With a new start comes new opportunities, right? You're determined to make the most of it by attending college, experimenting with a variety of careers that were unavailable to you in Hungary, of course. And as he writes in this book, folks, as a boy, I wanted to be many things. A railroad man, a pilot, a soldier, engineer, actor, entrepreneur, hey, a man after my own heart. You had you had a menial job on the rails for some time. One of your other goals was, you trapped behind the Iron Curtain. You wanted to do so many things. How much did the dreaming of those various career opportunities keep you going, do you think, John?
Yeah, well, one of the main reasons of many that I left Hungary is because I applied after high school for the Film and Theater Arts School in Budapest. And of course, I won 3 tests and then waited for the letter to come, whether I could start or not. And of course, the letter came and said that I was not accepted because of political reasons. My father wasn't in a Communist Party and so forth. But after escaping, most of those things I was able to do. I came in 1957, won a scholarship for Robert College, Indiana, and I didn't speak English. And the interesting part of it was that I thought they were taking me to an Indian reservation.
Yeah, right.
I didn't, because we didn't learn anything about the West in Hungary, in high school or otherwise.
Right.
We knew about New York and Los Angeles, and that was about it. Heard it from the radio for Europe, actually, not studied in school.
Right.
And so it turned out to be a business university or college, actually, in Indiana, and I was sponsored by General Motors, actually. This happened because with my friend and I arrived in Detroit after Camp Kilmer, where the refugee camp was. We arrived on a General Walker as a Navy ship.
Right.
And a small part of it was turned into all the Hungarian refugee that arrived there. And so my friend had an aunt and uncle in Detroit, and they both accepted me, and I went with them.
Right.
And from there, during going to church, I met a Hungarian person who was one of the thousands of vice presidents of General Motors, and asked me if I wanted to go to college. And he said, "Yeah, can you prove that you went to college, went to high school?" I said, "Yes, I can." And so that's how they drove me down to Weber's College in a '57 Chevy. It was like a dream. It was like a dream. I'd never seen cars like that before.
Right.
And so that's how I got there. And I even got $20 a month pocket money. Everything else was paid for me. And it was just incredible.
Wasn't this a dream come true? What a lucky
That was the beginning of the dream coming true.
Well, John J. Kelly, he's a famous critic from the Detroit Free Press. He says the book is called From Utopia to the American Dream. It's a beautifully told and inspiring story of how one individual pursued and eventually got to live the American dream. How, through sheer relentlessness, ingenuity, hard work, and perseverance. And the book is both a personal reminiscence and polemic to the evils of communism, the hardship of war, the unceasing generosity of human beings, and the triumph of the human spirit. Always suspenseful and often mesmerizing. It's a memoir, both entertaining, page after page, and completely satisfying. Well, it's a nice write-up, isn't it?
Yes, I appreciate you saying all those things.
John, you do say that the story continues to be topical, you know, as history repeats itself. I mean, there's a perfect example going on right now. Share that one.
Yeah, you're talking, you're thinking about the Ukrainian.
Right, the Russians are doing the same thing, aren't they, in the Ukraine, as they did in '56.
Yes.
You know.
And we are bordered with Ukraine in Hungary, and it's just mesmerizing what's happening all over again. The first time.
I can't believe that it's got this far. I just can't believe that Putin has done what he's done to the poor devils who have nothing to do but, you know, look after themselves, try and raise children, or most of them are old. So many, 126,000 or something civilians dead for nothing, just shelling for nothing.
Right.
You know, I don't understand why this is happening, and I hope to God it doesn't go any further. But still, well, all the big powers were supposed to go home in '47, right? This is what you talked about. The Russians didn't move; everybody stayed, and that's why the Americans stayed in Germany for such a long time as well.
That was the reason the U.S. stayed in Germany because of that. And they were hoping that the Russians go and they take over the whole of Europe, I suppose, and that's what they're probably trying to do now. I think Putin is trying to put back the old Soviet Union.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. He wants to go out a big hero, I think, before he dies with cancer. I wish somebody put a bullet in his head and be done with it. I think they'd stop dead, the army and everything, if he was gone. I really do. And I'm sure this guy watched too many movies of Rome growing up, you know, and the Roman Empire, and trying to emulate him. From Utopia to the American Dream, it provides inspiration for those in similar situations. And there are all over the world immigrants. Look what's going on now into Greece, into Europe, into America. Immigrants. I mean, it's just unbelievable how the world is shifting, John.
It's just really, coming from with my experiences as a teenager in Hungary and what happened there. I cannot believe what's happening to the world. It's amazing. It's just totally amazing, and I hope that the poor Ukrainians will win this whole thing, because Russia is right now. I think Russia miscalculated the whole thing. I think they're very, very weak right now.
You're listening to Nothing Like a Good Book, right? It's on markbishopmedia.com. It's also broadcast over all the major podcast platforms across America and around the globe. Mark Bishop, I'm hoping you're enjoying this interview, and by all means, get this book. There's a lot more in it than we can do on air for half an hour. Utopia, From Utopia to the American Dream. What was the most important lesson, do you think, John, you learned throughout your life so far?
That is nothing is possible, nothing is impossible. And that comes from my great grandfather on the father's side. He said, if you want to do something, you can do it. But unfortunately, I couldn't do all of this in Hungary. When it all occurred to me that everything is possible when I came to the United States and succeeded here.
Well, then if I was to ask you this, how do you think your life, would have turned out if you had stayed in Hungary? I mean, do you think you would have had different opportunities?
No. I could not, because I wanted to be an actor first thing, and because of my father and my political stance did not allow me to learn all of that stuff.
Right.
Although I was an amateur actor in Hungary too, but when I came to this country, the first thing I did was is to find out how one becomes part of the film industry here. And I succeeded. I made a living for about 10 years with being an actor here in Los Angeles.
Well, tell me about a couple of seconds. We've got a couple of minutes. Tell me about what you appeared in. Probably I've seen you. I love movies. And being
most of the occurring television shows, I got parts in. My goal was to get a series of my own, and then from there, of course, most actors succeed from there to films.
Right.
And then my mother, of course, I introduced him to the lead of the show. He just couldn't believe. When I was a kid, she loved the theater, and always told me, don't be an actor, because the actors are not adequate, how should I put this?
What, not solid?
They don't live a correct life. Let me just put it this way.
and down, yeah, it's an actor's life.
Then when I had her on the all week long when we were shooting with the Gomer Pyle show, I asked her one time. She said she met all the people in there that was in that particular segment, and I said, Mama, do you think that I shouldn't be an actor? She said, yeah, go ahead. They're all nice people. But I did a lot of other shows too. 77 Sunset Strip, I was in several segments of that. Jack Webb's True, I don't know if you remember that show.
Yes, I do. Brought up as a kid. In Australia. I watched American stuff, I can assure you, and British. We didn't have our own industry at that stage of the game. So all of our programming was British and American. So yes, I grew up on all of that stuff. Great shows, though. Great shows.
It started with the word true, and Jack Webb would walk out between the letters and say, the story you're about to hear is true.
That's right.
We did a 2-hour segment at one time, 2-hour show, and it's about the who Hitler put in charge with German general of Czechoslovakia, and then we were partisans and we had to annihilate him. So we managed to do that, and then it's a true story actually, because all the stories that were on that show were true. So and Hitler annihilated some 30,000 people because of that. Because we killed I say we, this was a show, but real partisans killed this German general. So that was the story of that. And I did some Westerns, a lot of other things. But unfortunately, I could not get, in 10 years, I could not, I worked a lot, and I was in one film that was Transley's story. George Cukor was the director, and I had a small part in that film also. But then I slowly realized, the only way I could make my own movies if I make a lot of money and do my own films. Of course, that was that was a dream also of my own. And so when it was not happening, my brother came after me. I didn't know, we didn't come together. He came after me about 3 weeks later. And then I asked him when I was in college, the director of foreign students, and at first I was the first foreign students of 750 among 750 American students at the time. And then he helped me get my brother from England here. And then I got him out here and thought, okay, we do some business trials and we see if we can make a lot of money and make some of my own films.
So the goal was to make money and make films, right? That was the real goal.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you achieve that?
No, I did not achieve it. We essentially, well, you know what happens when you get into business and if you're successful.
Yeah, it just takes all your time. That's it.
Here comes Friday and you got to pay 40, 50 people. And then, you know, as it grows, but you have to grow into if you're in business, then it just took all my time and eventually
So that became the American dream, really, from where you came from and what you come out of. Do you believe luck had a role in getting you to where you are today?
Well, I suppose some luck had to be with it, but
let's put it this way: I think you attracted it. If anything else, you attracted luck, but the rest of it was hard work. But I think getting started with that, with the car guy, you know, may have that was a bit. Luck. That was a bit of luck.
Yeah, we started with my brother and I started with releasing a bunch of parking lots and run it themselves. We had college students park their cars or something. You know, when somebody pulled into a restaurant, for example, they get out of the car and we parked it, and when they got back, they paid us for it. So and then I realized that when we had accidents, the insurance had to pay for it, right? Our insurance had to pay for it, and I realized that the body shop business was much better than a parking business. So we opened up a body shop.
One thing led to another. Yeah, I get that. There's a lot in the book, unfortunately. Sorry, go on.
Yes, and we through that small body shop we had, we could work on about 4 cars at the time. We grew into a 35,000 square foot under roof body shop.
Wow, that's huge.
We had at one time we had 45 employees, and that was, we were one of the biggest body shops in California. This was in LA.
Isn't that great? You know, creating jobs for Americans, right? To come from where you came from. Now, were you hesitant, John, to share personal details about yourself, you know, or your family in this book? I mean, did it affect how you told certain parts of your story?
How I told it?
Yeah, I mean, did you hold back a bit? I mean, is there stuff you didn't want to write about? Was it too hurtful, or did you tell all?
Well, not my personal stuff, because everything was just get successful, and I couldn't say that anything bad, I guess anything negative happened in my personal life. However, I shouldn't say personal life because I divorced twice, and my wife just loved the money coming in, and the biggest problem they had was, do we go to Tahiti first, or we go to
I want to spend Caribbean? Were they American wives, as a matter of interest?
No, they were both Hungarians.
All right.
Both Hungarian wives. Oh, the first wife, we had a wonderful child with my first wife. She graduated from the Film and Theatre Art School in Budapest, and I did a lot of work with the Hungarian theater in LA. They had 300,000 Hungarians living there, so we practically had our own theater.
Right.
And so one time we did this play, and we couldn't find an opposite for me, a younger, beautiful lady who can also sing. And so somebody found out that she had a brother living in San Francisco. He was an architect, and he managed to brought her out to visit her. So they asked her to come down to LA to do this play, Hungarian play. And that's how I met her. We were in the same play, and of course, instant love and so forth. But
rest of history.
yeah, yeah. My son was born, and she wanted to go back to Hungary with my son and myself. I said I couldn't do that. So that was the reason we divorced, because she went back and she couldn't do any acting in the American stage or because she couldn't speak English at all.
Yeah, very difficult. So what piece of advice would you give to immigrants, refugees? I mean, who are in a similar place to where, you once were?
Well, I tell you, a lot of the immigrants get a job and they're happy with that. And they don't have the strength or the knowledge to get something under their belt and grow it themselves, being self-employed and take the risks. I took a lot of risks. I had something like 18 or 20 different companies. Then finally I succeeded with the solar energy. So everybody's happy with a good job, and they go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, come home at 5, and they watch television.
Yeah, right.
Happy
with their lot, as they say. Happy with their lot.
I wasn't that person.
No. Well, you had the desire, like a lot of immigrants. Same in Australia, where after the war, we had to go out and get immigrants from all over the world and they helped create the country. It's from wineries to vineyards, I mean, they're unbelievable. Well, you've had many careers and hobbies throughout your life. I mean, what do you most want to be remembered as?
Oh boy.
In the minute we've got left.
I'm really hoping that about 60% of the people who read my books say that it should be a film. And my brother, my son and I, who's very good at the computer business, we're going to try to see if we can make it a film.
Interesting.
And if I could do that, I'd be so happy. Also, let me just mention to you that a university in Hungary, in Debrecen, find out about my book through a professor that teaches there. And they enticed me to go to Hungary and talk to these people. Right. So I went, and they were extremely happy to receive me, because they said they had a lot of books written by the revolution, but there were no books written from 3 years old, practically, of the time of a child to 2 years ago in the U.S.
Well, there you go. So it could be, because, I mean, you've got to read the book, folks, to get the whole gist of the story. I mean, he was raised in Debrecen, John Czingula, during World War II, and after surviving the Russian and German occupation of his home country and the Hungarian Revolution in 1956, he immigrated to America in 1957 and pursued his lifelong dreams. He got out. He was lucky, but he got out, got to this wonderful country and to start new, traveling through the States, experimenting with acting and entrepreneurship, starting a family. And while in America, he's a worker. He started over 20 businesses, ranging from parking lot leasing to solar thermal energy plants. I mean, credit where it's due. From Utopia to the American Dream. It's the autobiographical journey of John's life, how he went from survival in communist Hungary to embracing the American Dream. Paperback, From Utopia to the American Dream. It's on Kindle. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Are you doing any book signings at all, John, with this around the country,
I would. This is all new. This book in English it came out last year, the end of last year. And the Hungarian book, actually, they're asking me to come back in April because they want to do a book releasing party. The university is arranging that. So it's clever. It's just amazing what happened. Now that I called luck. You asked me earlier whether I think it's my life has been lucky. Well, this is lucky. Can you imagine a university, 35,000 students, asking me to let them translate the book and produce it in Hungary? That's just something I dream of at night still.
Fabulous. Well, you stick to that dream because it'll happen. Great book. I enjoyed it. Stay on the line, John, when I close off now. I'll get some details from you. But, folks, I hope I hope you got some sort of insight into that. From Utopia to the American Dream, Utopia to the American Dream. There's a lot in it, and a lot of motivation in it as well, quite frankly, when you read it. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed this segment of Nothing Like a Good Book. We featured John Czingula, and you can find this book on all those places we talked about. I hope you enjoyed it.